Merry Christmas, Joshua. If you're watching this, it means you've received a gift, and I'd like to go over this gift with you. This video will serve as an operation guide as well as a just kind of a rundown of everything that was done for this gift to make it special and whatnot. So these items here, this box, this stand, and this battery charger all come with your gift. So I'm going to go over everything that is in this box. The stand I actually made myself, so that's just kind of an added gift that I made for you. So when you open the box, as you can see, you have your Darth Maul Neopixel lightsaber. It's installed with CFX, runs on these batteries here. So I'm going to go over how to take the battery in and out, how to install the electronics, and how to operate the saber as well. So you'll get the box just like this, and each saber will have its kind of split configuration pommel on it. This right here is a coupler to attach them both as a staff. So you get it like this, and let me move this out of the way a little bit. Okay, so this is your saber, or one of them at least. So up here, both hilts are exactly the same. So I'll go over the features of one of them. It'll apply to both. I'll put the chassis in and out of one of them, and it applies to both, so everything's the same. Up here, I'll start at the top. You have a retention screw. Right now it's holding your blade plug inside. When you want to put a blade in it, you'll want to back that out with the provided Allen key that's in the box, and you'll take this out, insert your blade, tighten that screw down, and that's what holds your blade in place. Moving down from the emitter, these are actually plunger switch buttons. Red is power, silver is auxiliary on both of them. You can kind of hear them. They're nice and clicky. Moving on down, these two screws right here, they're actually screws, they're not buttons. Right now, for this pommel piece, it's held in with this silver one. So we're going to move on into this inside of the saber. So you want to back this out, and this will fall right off. And if you look, chassis is going to slide back on me, but I'll just slide out a little bit. So if you look inside, this is your custom chassis that I actually designed myself. And on the back end here, there's a red quartz crystal, and that will also light up when you turn the saber on. So that's super cool, and that's on both chassis. So you'll pull the chassis just straight out. And now I'll go over this little hilt. I'll show you how to install the battery and then insert your chassis into your saber. So there's not much to it, but you want to make sure that you're doing things correctly. So with your saber, you've got two batteries. These are 18650 batteries. I recommend only using these. If for whatever reason you need to replace a battery, you can see their keep power, 18650 3000 milliamp hour batteries. So these are what you want to get. Please do not use anything else. These batteries are trusted and widely used in these sabers, so they are safe and good to use, good quality. So you want to take your battery, and as you can see in the battery cradle, you have two different battery terminals. One has a spring, one has a little kind of button top or button piece to it. The positive goes to this end, negative goes to the spring. One saying that I kind of picked up from another installer is that spring side is your negative. So as long as you remember that, you're good to go. You'll know how to put your battery in. If you don't put it in that way and you put it in the opposite direction, has the potential of damaging your internals. So you definitely don't want to do that. So spring side is your negative. It actually marks negative and positive here on the battery sticker. So flat side down to the spring. What I like to do is seat it all the way in from the bottom end first, push down and in.
If the choice was correct, I will find them quickly, Master.
And you also want to make sure that the battery is all the way pressed in so that it fits into the hilt. So now with the battery in, one thing to note is that you don't want anything metal also touching these pins. Same kind of thing, if anything touches the board, it could short your electronics. So just make sure you're paying attention whenever you have it powered up, that these don't touch anything metal. So now that you have your battery in place, you want to insert the chassis in this orientation. That way these buttons up here line up with your plunger switches right there. As you can also see, there's kind of a groove because these plungers stick down into the hilt a little bit. So that allows space for that. So you'll want to just carefully insert, keep them lined up, and your chassis will only go in this direction. That's how I designed it, so you can't really put it in wrong. And you'll know that you did it correctly when you can push it and it can go all the way in like so. And you want to push it to where this is flush. After that, put your pommel piece on. You're going to line up this hole with that screw hole right there. And then use your silver screw to hold that in place. So now with the battery in the chassis, you can turn it on with the red button with a short press. So that's that lit blade plug that I mentioned. This little piece lights up right here, and the back end also lights up. So CFX boards, as you may know, feature smooth swing as well as many other features. So I'll quickly go over some of those right now. So this is the smooth swing. Accent swings. And so the buttons, bottom is auxiliary, and what you can do is press for blaster deflect. Press and hold for a saber lock. And this one's a little tricky, but if you press the button, hold and swing at the same time, it'll do character-specific quotes and force sounds. So I'll demo that for you. So first you'll click and swing. So there was a force sound.
If the choice was correct, I will find them quickly, Master.
There's one quote.
At last, we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi.
So as you can kind of tell, this is a Phantom Menace Darth Maul sound font, and it comes from Kyberphonic fonts. Really well known, makes really amazing fonts. So you can just do a short press to turn the saber back off. You can double click this button to turn on the music track for that font. And then if you want to change the track, some fonts have multiple songs, so you can just press and hold the red button. And you can still use your saber as the music's playing. And then you can double click to pause the music again. If you want to switch fonts, you just press and hold the auxiliary until it starts playing the font selection music.
At last we will have revenge.
So that's called a boot up sound, or a font sound, I'm sorry. So that will play to indicate which font you're about to select. So right now we're still on the same one. The background track that you hear is actually something that I added. It's not how a CFX board is usually configured. So that's it's actually something that comes with that font that we were on. So I decided to add that in the background because it was pretty fitting. So to cycle up and down the list of fonts, you press either auxiliary or power.
The time of the Jedi is past.
So this is the next one that I added. It's a Clone Wars Season 7 kind of configured font.
Your vision is flawed. I see the Padawan needs one last lesson.
You press and hold the auxiliary to select the font.
The time of the Jedi has passed.
So as you can see, all the things are different for that font. So it's specific to that time and place. So I'm going to show you other fonts that are on here.
The time of the Jedi has passed. At last, the time.
So this one's called Crimson Menace by Kyberphonic. It includes stuff from Star Wars Rebels
Now just more.
and I believe Solo as well. So a little bit different ignition. Same general hum and accent swings.
Perhaps my actions will speak louder than words.
So that was from Rebels. And that one's also Rebels. So those are really fun to play with. There's a couple other fonts that are on there that I also added as a gift from me. So I won't go over those. I'll let you kind of play around and figure those out. So yeah, I'm going to switch the camera view and I'm going to demo these with the lightsaber blades in. All right, so once you have the battery in and the chassis inserted into the hilt, in this little baggie right here in your box, you have a excuse me, silver Allen wrench. And this size is specific to your blade retention screw, which is up here in the emitter of your saber hilt. So you'll want to just loosen that a couple turns. Blade plug will fall right out. And when inserting the blade, I have the chassis designed to where the chassis sits pressed up against the pommel, and the blade is what pushes it to seat down in there. So you'll want to insert your blade and then put a little pressure and make sure that the chassis is fully in place. So you don't want it the chassis sitting forward a little bit at all. You just want to hold the saber upright and then push the blade a little bit against the chassis. You don't have to push too much. You don't want to damage those little gold pins that are at the top like I showed you. But just a little bit of pressure, you'll feel a little bit of kind of springiness in those little pins. So just a little bit of pressure to make sure that there's good contact. And then while you're keeping that held down, just tighten it with the Allen wrench. And then you can press the red button to turn it on. So I'm going to show you some of the blade effects that go on when you do like blaster blocks and stuff like that. So there's the blaster deflects, saber lock. And then one cool thing about Neopixel lightsabers is that the blade can be any color you want. So to change that, you want to press and hold auxiliary and then twist your saber. So press and hold and then twist.
Spectrum.
And then you just simply twist the saber and it changes the color. So just to show off a different color, I'll put it on green for Qui-Gon, just cause. So you just press and hold the auxiliary for a second, you'll hear a beep, and then it'll lock it in. As you can see off of like the ceiling, it flashes when you do like a little saber clash. So I'll go ahead and put it back on red. Right there. Just about. So another thing that you can do right now, it's hard to tell, but there's a little bit of a blade effect. You can kind of see it off of my face that it pulses, that the light pulses. You can actually change that. And in order to do that, you do the same thing as if you're going to change the blade color, but instead you keep holding the button and it will say blade profile. So you just keep holding it, and then it switches to blade profiles. So I think I accidentally switched the color on accident, but as you can see, there's different blade effects to choose from. There's a rainbow, Eye of Sauron, kind of a flicker and energy, pulse upwards, kind of the same thing. So yeah, there's a lot of cool ones that you could choose from. I think I had it on this one before. Let me switch the color back to red here. There we go. So with this one, the blade color changes as you swing. It's called Swing Bright on CFX. So that's kind of cool.
Spectrum. Spectrum. Blade profiles. Spectrum.
For some reason it wants to change the color on me. Alright. Right there. There we go. So that's back to the way it was. I'll demo one of the other fonts.
The time of the Shadow at last we will have revenge. Tatooine sparsely populated.
A little bit of a slow ignition. So I'm gonna put the chassis and battery in the other one, and then have them both on at the same time, just so that you can see that they both work. So I just inserted the battery. One thing that I forgot to mention is that each chassis is specific to each hilt, so they're not really interchangeable. Just kind of worked out that way with the button heights. I ended up making a change in the chassis design, so that I wouldn't have to do something that I did on the first one. So it just turns out that they're just that little bit of difference that makes them incompatible. But you'll see if you put in the chassis and the buttons don't reach these little buttons on the chassis, you'll know you have the wrong one in. So you just got to switch them around. So I'm going to put this in same exact way as the other one, but this time I'm going to show you how to put on this staff coupler. So that fits around the chassis on the inside and then lines up with 2 screw holes. Silver one goes on the bottom, just like how it was before, but you have another set of these red screws, and the difference between them is that the threads are longer on the ones that you use for the staff coupler. So this is the one with the longer threads, and that goes in the top one. So now you can see that you have this other end here, and that'll go in the other saber. So what you want to do is take both screws out. With the silver one, the pommel will easily come off. Oops. Yeah, make sure not to lose these. So there's that one. So now I've got the red one and the silver one. This might be a little tricky. I recommend doing this over a table so that you don't drop these onto the floor or something like that. So I'm going to put the silver one in on the bottom, just like how it was before. And then this is the one with the longer threads for the staff coupler. Tighten those down real good. So now you have it in the staff configuration. So I'm going to put the other blade in as well. So just remember, you back out this retention screw a couple times. Kind of tilt down and have the blade plug fall out. And then you take the blade insert. Once it seats down on top of the pins, put just a little bit more pressure down again. Tighten the screw. You don't want to tighten it super tight, but just enough to where it's snug on the blade and it won't come flying out if you decide to swing your sabers around a little bit. So this thing is really, really large. So, I mean, I stand it up and it's about, like that much under my ceiling height. So it's going to be very hard to swing indoors. I wouldn't recommend it. But I'm going to try to back up just enough to show you. So, really hard to demo in person, but as you can see, both sabers turn on. And that's how you assemble it in the staff configuration. I want to just take one last moment to show you really quick what it looks like on the Saber Stand. This is designed to be used when the hilt is in its staff configuration. You can't really rest them on there when they're separate. But a couple things that are out there, for example on Etsy to buy, is like wall mounts, and you can actually have them on the wall with the blade in. You can light them up, you know, it's a cool little decor idea. So that, as well as like the belt clips, in case you want to hang it on your belt at any time. If you want to know where that you can find that stuff online, just let me know. I can send you links for that if you want to purchase those. But yeah, one last thing that I wanted to mention too is that when you have the chassis in the hilt and there's no blade in, there's a space between there and like the blade plug. When the blade is in, that's kind of keeping it in place and there's nowhere for it to go. But if you can hear, there's a little bit of space for it to wobble around. So I don't recommend heavy swinging when the blades are not in, because the chassis will be rattling around in there. But you can, you know, just kind of do that, play around with it a little bit. But the buttons won't work unless the chassis is sitting down towards the coupler. So for it as an example, it works. It slid down and now the buttons are out of place. But you just slide it back down and then they're in place. So just one last little thing that I wanted to mention. So that concludes your demo and instruction video. As always, obviously I'm around if you ever have any questions or you want additional fonts added onto the Saber. So feel free to reach out to me for literally anything. I'm always happy to help. But it was a pleasure making this lightsaber for you. I was really excited when Chris kind of came up and wanted to do this as a Christmas idea for you. So I really hope you enjoy it. I hope the hilt itself is your favorite. Kind of talked about it a little bit, so did a little bit of recon there for that. But yeah, really excited for you to get these very soon here. It's about 5 days away from Christmas, and I know you'll be getting it on the day, or at least around then. So yeah. So thank you for watching the video, and as always, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. Thanks.